How much money can solar actually save you in 2026? People advertise up to 90% or that your bill will just disappear forever. But realistically, if you invest in solar, how much money are you going to keep in your pocket? Welcome back to the lab where our opinions cannot be bought. This is a pretty rare video here on YouTube because it's coming from people who have nothing to sell you. Here at the lab, we review products, try to save you guys money, and try to make solar super simple. But at the end of this video, if it's still not clicking with you, you can check the link in our description, which sets you up with a company that we have already vetted and we would actually recommend. Now, this topic is where a lot of people get misled. They look at a $200 electric bill and just think solar will wipe that out. But that's not always how it works. The real answer depends on three main things: your actual energy usage, how your utility company credits solar, and whether the system is designed properly. So, does solar actually save you money, or does it just look good on paper? The first mistake people make is looking only at the dollar amount. A $200 electric bill doesn't mean the same thing everywhere. In one state, $200 might mean you're using a lot of electricity at a low rate, or in another, $200 might mean you're using less electricity but at a high rate. So instead of looking at the dollar amount, the number you should care about is kilowatt hours. That is the amount of electricity your home actually used. And then you can determine how big your solar system needs to be. The second thing is figuring out if where you live allows for net metering, which in simple words is just selling that extra solar power generated back to the utility company. Or it just offsets your bill. Although not all places will let you do this, like Texas, where there's no statewide metering rule. So you don't just want the biggest system someone can sell you, you want a system that actually fits your needs. Metering credits are becoming less and less incentivized every year. So depending on where you live, it might not be a huge factor. The third thing to keep in mind is how you actually pay for your system. The first one is obviously going to be cash. You pay up front, and then that system gradually pays you back with lower electrical bills. Hitting a break-even point is variable and dependent on state laws, how much sun you have during peak hours, and your utility rates. You could finance the system. The pro to this is you lock in a finance rate now and it won't go up in the future later. Basically, if you had a $200 utility bill and they're going to finance you a system for $200, as utility rates rise similar to gas prices, you're still paying that $200 you're locked in at. And then once the financing's over, you own the system. And then you reap the benefits of free energy. And then the third one is lease or PPA, where you don't usually own the system. And because you don't own it, we usually don't recommend it. It seems enticing when you first look at the numbers, but at the end of the day, you're never going to get that free electricity because you do not actually own the system. Lastly, we need to consider batteries. If you live in an area where electricity costs more during peak hours and less during off-peak hours, a battery can make a huge difference and allow you to peak shave. Without batteries, your only option is to either waste that extra energy or sell it back to your utility company. And then you'll get a credit towards your bill. But with batteries, you store all the energy you collect all day, which can then be deployed later when peak rates come into play. This means you own the energy. You can choose when you use it, when you store it. Ultimately, it's yours. The best example of this is if you knew a storm was coming, you can generate all that power during off-peak hours, so it's cheaper. It can be stored in the battery and then deployed during the storm or outage if it happens. That is where batteries can drastically improve the economics. But again, this depends heavily on the state you live in, your utility rates, and more. This is where some people get burned. For example, if the system is undersized. This happens when a flashy sales guy just tries to sell you something, instead of actually trying to help you out. Another thing that just kills solar savings are factors that are just out of your control. Like a portion of your solar array is covered by shade, or you live in a place like we do that just doesn't get a lot of sun. The next issue is downtime. If bad things do happen, you won't be able to generate solar power anymore because you're fixing them or trying to get replacement parts. So if you want to know how much solar can save you in 2026, here is a simple framework. First, check your daily kilowatt-hour usage. Second, understand your local net metering or buyback rules. Third, compare cash, loan, or lease options separately. Fourth, look at if a battery helps or just adds cost. And lastly, make sure the system design accounts for your daily usage, your rate plan, and downtime if you have issues. This is how you get an accurate savings number, not a fantasy salesy number. Solar can absolutely save people money. But the best solar deal is not always the biggest system, the lowest monthly payment, or the flashiest quote. The best system is what actually matches your home and pays you back in the real world. So before you sign anything, do the math for your actual bill. And that's pretty much all we got for you today. If you learned anything in this video, please subscribe. Any links we have will be in the description to try to save you guys some money, as well as our company's solar quiz. Again, it takes less than 60 seconds and it gets you in contact with a company that we actually trust. With all that being said, peace out and stay charged.